Hello, and welcome to the NARSA weekly update for the week of Monday, the 4th of January 2021, and a very happy new year to all of the listeners. And I hope that 2021 brings us the 55 that we've all been looking for, and much health and prosperity. It's Gary Gillen here, and I'm your host for this week's edition. And firstly, I'd like to start off by commemorating the wonderful job that Rangers did under the circumstances, the lockdown circumstances, for the 50th anniversary of the Ibrox disaster, and commemorating the 66 victims from that awful day back on January 2nd, 1971. I still honestly can't wrap my head around the magnitude of that particular disaster and how awful it must have been for everyone involved. Just incredible, and not in a good way. We were fortunate enough to have our very own NARSA Vice President Brian Campbell back home in Scotland. Yep, he went from being locked down in California to being locked down in Scotland over the festive period. And he was kind enough to organise a wreath to be laid in respect and commemoration at the John Gregg statue on the weekend there. So thanks a million to Brian for taking the time to mark the occasion on behalf of NARSA. Very much appreciated. If you haven't had a chance yet to watch the documentary put together by the club called Stairway 13 Ibrox Disaster documentary, that's on their YouTube channel, I definitely encourage you to do so. It's excellently put together, and it combines old footage and old interviews and new footage and new interviews as well. And it's very well done. It's just under an hour, and the time zips by. It's gripping, content that they have there. My son Leo and I watched it on Saturday afternoon, actually, after we had gotten back in after the game was all done and we had done what we had done in the morning. And we watched it, and he's 11, and he was as riveted to the content as I was. And during it, the questions were, where were you that day, Dad? Were you okay? I actually wasn't born then, Leo. Come on, man. Have you ever been crushed at a game? Kinda, sort of, back in the day, but not so much that I was ever injured. Could this happen to us? Well, we've been to NBA, NHL, NFL, and an international football game at an MLS stadium, and nothing like that has ever happened. And do you know why? Because of the lessons learned from the Ibrox disaster. So, we have placed our mark on the safety of all sporting patrons across the world, I would suggest, and that's no mean feat. It's just a pity it had to take 66 people losing their life to start to affect that meaningful change as well. But not to be too down about it, if you have a chance and you have a spare hour, I would definitely recommend Stairway 13, the Ibrox Disaster documentary, when you can. So on to the content for this week. The game segment last week saw us enjoy another 2 solid victories and 2 clean sheets to increase our lead at the top of the table. We managed to exact some payback for our League Cup shambles at St Mirren's Simply Digital Arena last midweek, and then we had a quite nervy at times, but ultimately very sweet victory over our friends from the East, who are always cheated, never defeated, to increase our run to an incredible 14 games. I don't actually recall in my time watching Rangers, when we've done that. Someone had said it was our best start to the season since 1953, something like that. I just don't know if that's a points tally or if it's, games in a row tally or something like that. But either way, it's an amazing start, and it was great to see the invariable meltdowns that have happened on social media and even in the post-match interviews from our friends from the East in terms of their ability or inability to take a defeat on the chin. Oh, well, that's a shame. Anyway, so now we get a breather from midweek games for the next few weeks, which feels like the first time in ages since it's been like that, because of the glut of games that we had there in December, and then our European escapades that we had for the remainder of the season to date. So we don't have our next game until this coming Sunday, January the 10th, 2021 at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 11:30. And note the time, it's a little bit of a funky kickoff time, 4:30 p.m. Back in the UK. So just make sure that you don't miss out on that one. And points per game. Since I mentioned that last week, I will continue with that for right now until the results start to go against us. But based on the results of the last week there, our result now means that we have 2.82 points per game. That's up 0.2 points per game from last week. And the always cheated, never defeated mob have now 2.26 points per game. And that was down from 2.35 last week. So I think that's 0.09 of a change there. So good to see. A very, very enjoyable week to be a Rangers fan, and long may it continue. Just a quick shout out for the Rangers TV vouchers. Again, if you have or know anyone that would benefit from a voucher or needs a voucher, please contact your president or secretary and they will contact me directly, and we will get the turnaround for the voucher very, very quickly to make sure that no one misses out on anything. We did have quite a flurry last week leading up to a little bit to the St Mirren game and mostly to the Celtic game for people looking for the vouchers. So that's great that we have a number of bears enjoying the flexibility that the vouchers provide for us here in North America. Quick convention update. You may or may not have subscribed to our mailing list on the website that is attached primarily for convention updates. And we did send an email out yesterday, that would be January 3rd, to the distribution list there. There's about 500 and odd people on that distribution list, just letting everyone know where things stood. And essentially what we did was just included a link to last week's weekly update so that everybody would know the information that was shared with our NARSA membership and the information that was contained therein from a 2022 perspective. That's the main update that we have for this week. Again, I'm going to repeat myself a wee bit from last week, but we hope to be in a position to announce our 150th anniversary destination and venue very, very quickly. We're very, very close to doing that, but we've just still got some admin to tie up at the back end, and we don't want to preempt or jinx anything unnecessarily by announcing it without having all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So as soon as we have the contract signed, we will let everyone know where it's going to be, and then we will start on the proper preparations and the excitement and everything else that's fun that goes with the organising of the conventions. Another wee quick shout out for our general meeting that we have on Saturday, January the 23rd. That's, I guess, 2 weeks on Saturday from the time of recording this. Again, if you have anything you would like to be raised or discussed at the meeting, please by all means reach out to our NARSA secretary, Sandra Hawthorne, to get it added to the agenda, and we will most certainly discuss whatever needs to be discussed at the meeting on that particular day. Our wee feature segment this week, last week you'll recall, was My Gers and the work that we've been doing with the club on My Gers. I wanted to provide a wee bit more of an internal overview of how we have things structured on the NARSA Executive right now, just to provide a wee bit of education in terms of how we go about our business, how we're structured, what areas we're concentrating on, and who is helping out with those particular areas. And I'm not talking specifically about the NARSA Executive, the people that are listed on the website as performing their specific roles. I'm talking about the subcommittees. And we have 5 different subcommittees that we have set up in the background. We have the Rangers TV subcommittee, we have the convention subcommittee, communications subcommittee, a little bit more about that in a wee while, benevolence subcommittee, and a sponsorship subcommittee. If you ever take the time to look around our website and our constitution, it gives a bit of guidance about how subcommittees have to be structured, who has to be on them, and things like that. And so that's what we've listed ourselves out with. That's how we've structured ourselves in the background with. So I am on every subcommittee as the president of NARSA. It's not because I have a strong skill set in that particular area or an absolute desire to get myself involved in absolutely everything. It's nothing like that. It's just the way that the Constitution is written right now. But I'm going to go briefly over each of the subcommittees to give you an idea of who's on them. And then I want to pay a wee bit of attention to the communications one. So the Rangers TV one, I'm on it myself. Brian Campbell, Sandra Hawthorne, the NARSA Secretary, and our North East Regional Director, Fraser Curry, are on that. And that's basically set up to make sure that we accommodate, manage the relationship with Rangers TV, with the staff and support over at Rangers TV, that we give the clubs appropriate information and feedback based on any game time issues, based on any challenges with the vouchers, based on anything in and around the Rangers TV sphere of influence. So we do that, yeah. I mean, there's nothing too much more to say about that. From a convention perspective, right now we have myself, Brian Campbell, Sandra Hawthorne and Fraser Curry on that, and also Alan McWatt, our Southwest Regional Director. Alan was drafted in from the convention was supposed to be in San Francisco 2020 perspective, so our rep that includes that has that area as that destination, as their remit would be there to lend a hand and help with fashioning the communications between ourselves. We will change that up slightly when we get planning properly for 2022. The Communications Subcommittee I'll come to in a second. Benevolence, we have myself and the Northwest Regional Director Alex Black from the Winnipeg Rangers Supporters Club. And basically what we do from a benevolence perspective, we are contacted fairly regularly to support various charitable causes that are in and around the Rangers purview, and we take them on board. We do a bit of investigation, find out what they're looking for, what they need, how NARSA can help, and then put a proposal together to the NARSA executive to say the support that's been asked for. Sometimes it's just communication support, sometimes it's financial support, and or anything else really that people need depending on what they're doing. And we put that together, package it, and then provide the best sort of support that we possibly can. The Sponsorship Subcommittee is myself and Brian Campbell, and that's primarily around our sponsorship related specifically to conventions and how you can get involved and sponsor conventions and the various events that we have at the conventions. But we're also trying to figure out ways to expand that to just general sponsorship opportunities for our regular business, you know, not just for convention times. So that took a little bit of a pause when COVID truly hit, and then the convention started to become affected as a result of that. But it's something that's certainly still simmering away there, and something that we'll hopefully get a chance to resurrect in the not too distant future. From a communications perspective, we have myself, Brian Campbell, again, Alan McWatt, who's a member of the Orange County Rangers Supporters Club, as the main executive members of that, and we are supported by Chris Lovett from a website and MailChimp distribution email support perspective from the San Francisco Rangers Supporters Club, and we have Andy Carey, who is our social media guy from my very own club, the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary. And what we basically do, we do most of it over a WhatsApp group that we've created, and or email, depending on what type and style of communication that we're talking about at a particular time. But what we're responsible for is basically all external communications that you see coming out of NARSA. Everything that we put out is discussed, drafted and agreed upon by the subcommittee, and when appropriate ran past the NARSA executive to give us, make sure that we're doing the right thing by everyone. And we're in constant communication. It's probably our most active group. As anybody who follows NARSA will see that we're fairly regular on our social media presence and things like that. So we get together, we bounce ideas off each other, we come up with the best and most appropriate mode of communication of information that we think is imparting the type and style of messaging that we want to get out from NARSA as well. And just recently we've also created our own YouTube channel, which is called NARSA Communication. If you search for NARSA Communication on YouTube, you should come up with this channel that you're listening to this from. And right now you'll see the archive of the previous 2 weekly updates, and as we go forward, hopefully more of an archive of content that we are putting out there. So that's just a wee bit of background in terms of how we go about our business. A little bit boring, I know, but quite important to let you know what sort of support vehicle and support mechanisms are in place in the background to make the NARSA machine keep ticking over throughout the season, throughout the year, essentially. We're always looking for feedback, so please don't hesitate to let us know how we're doing from a communication perspective, and provide all and any respectful and positive input that will help us get better going forward. We're always open to that sort of thing going forward. So, just on the communication perspective, we continue to add contacts to people who are going to give us their interview time to give us their history of their NARSA club, and we are moving forward on that. As soon as I understand and nail the technology that we are going to use to get the interviews done, we'll start to get them organised, and then we'll see the best mode of communicating them out. As I think I mentioned on one of the previous pods, we can either do it as a series of individual ones, depending on how lengthy they are, or maybe one amalgam of all of the clubs that decide to participate, and we'll see how that pans out over the next wee while. More to follow on that when we get there. So in wrapping up here, here's hoping to another strong 3 points against Aberdeen on Sunday, assuming this pending lockdown in the UK won't affect the game, and that will take us to an incredible 15 wins in a row. From a feature segment perspective for next week, we will provide a bit of information about what NARSA is doing to help promote Rangers soccer schools in North America. We have a meeting with Gary Gibson and Ian Greer. I believe will be both on the call this coming Thursday, so we should have more information to share then, and we are hoping to have a bit of a call with all of our representation in North America to help promote and spread the word a wee bit more about the great work that the soccer schools team are doing in North America. So with that, I will leave you. Thank you very, very much again for taking the time to listen to this week, and please don't hesitate to share this with whomever you think might enjoy it. Take care, folks. All the very best. Cheerio.